Okay, before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to point something out. I've been coming to this company now for a year. Today marks my 1-year anniversary. And this is the first time I've seen every one of those development people dressed up. And in fact, some of them actually got sport coats on and more, and I have to say, you guys look really well when you dress up, so keep it going. So a year ago, we talked a lot about our database and where the database was going. I think today, if you were here last year and you saw what Srini just walked us through, we've come a long way, and what we have planned is going to take us even further, a lot further. We not only have a database, but we now have integrations, and now we're talking about doing things as a service to make it easier for all of you to deploy us and manage us. It's a big strategic effort for us. But now I'm going to introduce somebody who wasn't even here a year ago, Tom Meese, who's head of our client services. And for those of you who were here today and weren't looking at your readers and tracking us on Twitter and all the things that I know you're going to do when you leave tomorrow, we put out a press release today. It's the 4th press release we put out in the last 4 months. It's about a whole new suite of client services. And I've been doing this stuff for a long time, and I have never met a company that bought any kind of enterprise software that didn't need some help from a services organization. And you're about to hear from somebody who's extraordinarily good at doing what he does, talk about what we announced today. So sit back and enjoy hearing from Tom Meese, our Director of Client Services. Go get him.
Hello, hello. So this is really about how client services enables customer success. And there's a lot of things we're going to talk about. You know, it's always tough to follow a roadmap presentation like with Srini because he's got some shiny bits and bytes. But we'll do our best. So first of all, a little bit about me. I've been delivering solutions to customers for over 25 years now. I run engineering, I run operations, and done a whole bunch of things. And I'm really excited about this services team we have here today. Some of our worldwide team members are here from across the globe. These are typical consultants, data nerds, and techno geeks. And I say that with a lot of respect because I'm in awe of their big brains. But as much as I awe their brains, they're also incredibly committed to each of you, and it's so exciting to be part of that team where we can come out and talk to you, understand what your concerns are, what your risks are, and help build solutions that get you up and running quickly. A little bit more about me. So I'm in our Portland office, which means we stand around and figure out what sort of free-range organic coffee we want to drink each day. We also come up with solutions about how do we protect our microbrews from the rain that we get. But pausing on this for a second, so I come down here, I don't know, 2-3 times a month to work in our Mountain View office. And since January, every time I've come down here, it has rained. I just can't figure this out. But so we broke the streak this week. Actually, it's not going to rain, and hopefully it won't. But come on, California, let's go. I'm here for the sun, which is important. So Bill said, huge announcement, right? Very excited about this. We've announced some new services packages. We've announced Aerospike Academy. And this should all be very meaningful to you, and I'll kind of explain why. But I got to back up a little bit because this didn't just start when I got here. This started several years ago. And we've delivered services to all sorts of customers doing all sorts of things, whether we're doing data migrations, or we're helping to build a hybrid cloud solution, or we're helping to solve a petabyte scale architecture problem. And we've done a lot of that for our customers, but admittedly, it's all been, I shouldn't say all, but predominantly it's reactive. You say, hey, I've got a need, or I've got a gap, or I've got a concern, and we'll help. This now is taking all of what we've learned over the past several years and coming up and saying, you know what, we know Aerospike really well. We understand operations, we understand architecture. Let's take those two bookends, let's take those two pillars, and let's build prescriptive packages of services that you need that's going to build your architectures to scale. So that's what we're all about. The other thing I want to mention is, I love this laundry list that Srini showed up there about all the new capabilities and features we have. But even the existing things, fantastic stuff like strong consistency or compression or list and maps. We now have services that sit alongside those and are just as valuable. But more than just announcing services and packages, I think today, we're confirming our commitment to each of you. And that's something I want to make sure that you understand is over the weeks, months, and years that we work together, hold us accountable to that commitment. Make sure that we are doing what you need us to do. Give us that feedback. John mentioned it, Srini mentioned it. We thrive on hearing what works for you, and more importantly, what doesn't work for you. So how can we be better? So I kind of came up with some questions. I said, all right, if I'm going to talk, here's some things that you might be asking yourself, and so some questions I'm going to throw out there. And as we go through this today, I'll cover a lot of this stuff. So what does a successful customer look like? We'll kind of go through some key things that I think are important. How do we organize these services? How we deliver them? And then really, some pointed things. So how do I have confidence in an architecture? How can you help me there? Well, what if I don't want to operate an Aerospike cluster? What can you do for me? I'm on-prem only, and I want sort of a hybrid cloud, or I want a multi-cloud solution. Can you help? Or I'm on a really old version, and to me, 3.9 is a really old version. But God, how do I get current? Like, what version should I go to? Should I go to the latest? Should I go to one before? So we can help with all that stuff. And the last one here is kind of interesting. We do get a lot of our large enterprise customers. This central IT or central architecture group that comes up with an architecture and some design patterns, and they say, okay, all 12 application groups, this is the way to use Aerospike. And they don't really know how to provide governance. They don't really know how to help those groups be successful. So great, if I have that scenario, Aerospike, how do you help make me better? So those are kind of questions we'll go through, starting with what makes a successful customer. And I kind of laugh at this because we've had some real passionate debates within our office about this. We have a lot of experience working with you. You've told us your war stories, and it comes down to, first of all, why did you use it? Why did you buy Aerospike? Are you clear and intentional about it? Does it give you a new business opportunity? Is there a TCO message? So once you figured it out, please tell us that. Let us know what you're thinking. Help us understand what's on your mind and what's important to you. The other thing for successful customers is those that understand that it's not one group. It's not client services that owns customer success, right? It takes a village to raise a customer, if you will. In that village, there's product development that requires input. Srini just said, hey, your homework, please look at all these things and talk to us about that. Please tell us what doesn't work for you? How can we evolve our product? Our solution architects, these guys and gals, they have a whole host of reference architectures in their brains and on their minds from work they've done all around. So engage with those, talk about what they've seen work in different scenarios. Obviously, I'm going to push client services packages because I think those can help a lot. But training, training is a commitment. And for me, if I don't continue to use something, I kind of lose that skill. And so make sure you've set up time, repeated to go back in and get trained, and then support. So we have a phenomenal support team. These are product experts. They understand Aerospike really well, constantly engaging customers, going above and beyond, in my estimation. But you can ask them questions like, hey, I'm thinking about this, or what about that? Or, hey, I looked at my logs last night and I saw this timeout. What does that mean? So, embrace all of our groups. We're here to work for you, we're here to work with you. So I mentioned how do we sequence our services? Now, we came up with a very simple model, right? We wanted to say, we have all these packages, we have these activities, when should you engage in what? Well, so we use onboard, adopt, and grow. And onboard is a very simple orientation. Adopt is all about getting you into production with your use case. And then grow is, great, how can you scale? Do you have more use cases that apply to Aerospike? Not every use case should go on Aerospike, but there's a number that should. So the services I'm going to talk about and the activities we go through line up against this life cycle. So first thing, on board, there's 4 key things we want to jump into. As we kick off your project, we want to understand, okay, what does success look like? Everybody does. We also want to organize our services against your key milestones, understand your assumptions, your dependencies, and go through and make sure we're all lined out there. A big thing, and I didn't touch on what Academy means, and so let me just spend a second talking about Academy. We made this live earlier in the year and didn't make a big deal of it, wanted to get some early tests. And those of you who've been using Academy, thank you very much for the feedback. It's really helping us to improve it. Keep that coming. So Academy is our online training portal. Every Aerospike license includes a number of training seats that each training seat gives one person unlimited access to on-demand training or virtual instructor-led training. We also tie it into support. So you can imagine situations where we get support tickets in, and Meher knows this, we talk about this all the time, but someone files a ticket, and then Meher says, great, send me your logs. And then the response he gets back is, where are my Aerospike logs? And that just doesn't, we need people who file tickets to have a baseline knowledge of Aerospike to help us come to a quick resolution for that issue. So we're using Academy. So anyone who files a support ticket, they need to have a training seat in Academy. And they also need to complete what we've created, which is a support certification exam. Now, this is a 30-question exam, 35, sorry. It used to be 50, and some clever customers of ours gave us some feedback. But we dialed it back, 35 questions. It takes 20 to 30 minutes. I think I did it in 24 minutes. Not that I'm keeping track, but it's designed, again, to make sure that you've got a baseline knowledge of Aerospike. So we've announced this change. I think back in February, we sent out an announcement to all of our customers, to all of you, and over the course of this year, we'll phase that in. But so if you file a support ticket and you get a response back that says, hey, you're not a designated support contact, well, this is why. We want to make sure you've got a training seat. We want to make sure you're trained, you have an understanding of Aerospike, and then you can help us with a speedy resolution to the issue. So that's Academy. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Last thing, exit criteria for this, once ever the team is trained, is also an introduction to support. And I did want to highlight, because again, Meher and I have this conversation a lot, is when is somebody, when should their question be handled by support, or when should be handled by client services? So for us, support, again, product experts. You ask them a question like, how does compression work? And they'll tell you about every algorithm, they'll tell you about every setting, and how that all works. They'll point to the documentation. But if you ask them, hey, what's the right compression setting for me? Well, now that's client services, because now we need to understand your use case. So client services will come in and will ask you, a dozen or so questions, get to know what you're really trying to do. We'll run some tests. We'll have you run some tests, however that works. And then we'll give you a recommendation, and you go implement it. So big distinction there. But this is all the onboarding. Typically takes 1 to 4 weeks in length. Some customers get through really faster than others. It just depends on training. So we really encourage that. Now, once everybody's trained, we get into this, what we call adoption, right? This is accelerating your production launch. So there's 3 key packages that we've defined for Adopt. Every new customer will experience, and I mean that in a good way, experience this enterprise deployment package. So here we will come in and, again, the 2 pillars that we set up. Look, you've got to have a scalable architecture, and you've got to have a streamlined operations process. And so that's the point of this package, is to come in and work with you shoulder to shoulder to do both. Now, we are not going to come in and write the code for you. We're not going to write your playbooks, but we will document what you should be doing and have you implement that. We need to make sure that your takeaway out of this is an understanding of how to use Aerospike and try to build that knowledge within your team. So once we get you deployed, or I should say, the other thing we can do is we can add in a data migration. So there's a lot of customers that come to us from legacy systems like Cassandra or Couchbase. And so we'll come in, we'll understand that data model. Obviously, since we helped you build your Aerospike data model, we know that. And we can just help with ETL, move the data across, get you live in production faster. So a great acceleration for a number of our customers. Last thing we do on some of our large customers is they've got massive development teams, 300-400 developers. And so we can set up best practices on how to use client libraries, on what design patterns to use. We can help with functional testing. We do code reviews, a number of aspects to help the development team. So all those things, we expect a adoption phase to run 6 months in duration. Now that's an average. Some are faster. Some take a little longer, depending on the complexity. But these 3 packages are all about getting you to production as fast as possible. And then once you're in production, so exit criteria, again, launch party. Oh, and I should say, launch party. Please, if you're going to launch, have a party. And if you have a party, please invite us. We'd love to come to these things. So I travel. If you're in a foreign place, I can travel. I have my passport. So a couple things I'll cover and grow, right? I'll cover activities that we go through, and then I'll cover a couple packages. First of all, a list of activities. So we have this concept of a power session, and Amin Oshrad and Zohar, our friends from Israel, kind of came up and sort of educated me on how to run a really good power session, and they're great at this. And it's really sitting down with our customers, say every quarter, talking about what's new. So what has changed in your business? How is it different? What should we know? And then it's talking about a lot of things that Srini just showed you, new Aerospike features. And then we try to help intersect that with what you're doing. So what features matter to you? And then we talk about a roadmap. So out of this, we can come up with a plan of saying, great, new features, really important to you. Let's get you on an upgrade plan. Let's figure out how to get those live into production and working for you. So a great way for us to stay connected and communicate with each other. And we try to get those on a quarterly basis. So when we call and say, hey, let's do a power session, please, let's get that scheduled. The other thing we see our customers engaging support. Sometimes, they'll file tickets once, twice a week. And I think that's a really good thing, because that means you think about your deployment, you think about Aerospike. You either have a question about, hey, is this possible? Or again, I saw an anomaly. How do I deal with that? Health checks are another thing that we do. It's included in your license. We'll come out once a year. We'll look at your configuration. We'll look at your log files and give you a detailed report on some remediations. Upgrades. This is a big thing that upgrades are tough for enterprises, right? Some companies are on cycles that are like once a year they know they're going to upgrade no matter what. And that works. Because I think, Srini, we're on like a major release every quarter type thing. So if you upgrade once a year, well, okay, so you're only 4 releases behind. Companies that are on a 3-year upgrade cycle, that's a tough one, because they can be 12 releases behind, and that path to get upgraded is difficult. So during this growth phase, do have a plan. Just be intentional about when you want to upgrade, how you want to go through it. We're here to help. I'll talk about a package in a second. Training, and again, like I said, if I don't use something often enough, I'll lose it. So be intentional, set aside time every week, every month to get some training going. And then the other thing we heard earlier was that you've invested a lot in but through the entire journey of understanding Aerospike, doing either a POC or an evaluation, going through and deploying, getting live. You've learned a lot about that. So contribute back, share your experience, help others understand what you've gone through, maybe give some best practices. Do that in a blog, host a meetup, come speak at this conference next year. You can share that experience. So I'm very excited when any one of our customers wants to stand up and say, here's my experience, good, bad, indifferent. Just let everybody know what you went through. So packages, I'll run through these quick. Packages for the grow phase. We separated out, I showed you for new customers, the enterprise deployment package. We've separated that out in a specific architecture. So we'll focus on that exclusively, or we'll focus on your operations, help you streamline that using your existing tools. Upgrades, again, I talked about that before. We'll come in and work with you to develop a plan. The zero downtime or upgrading while meeting your SLAs can be challenging depending on what version, depending on a number of factors. So we work with you on all that stuff. And then the last package, we get customers coming to us and saying, gosh, I've got this major event coming. It's 6 months down the road, but am I ready for it? Can I handle this traffic? So we'll come in and do a really in-depth look at your configuration and say, yeah, here's some things you should do, or here's some things you shouldn't do. But I really like that when customers come to us and, again, tell us what they're thinking. So that covers existing customers. There's two last packages I want to go through. And these are a little different, but they're really powerful for us. And they kind of cover all three phases, right? So we have a technical account manager, and these are Aerospike experts that come in and work shoulder to shoulder with your team. They provide operations help. They provide architecture help. They help development. They're not a support person, right? So they don't handle support tickets, but they'll help prioritize issues with our support team. So right now we've got half a dozen or so customers using TAMs in various degrees. And it really helps, again, it's this relationship aspect. We're working with you either on-site, remote, side-by-side. We're at whiteboards together. We're really getting into a lot of details of working with your team. So very excited about the TAM. Would love, in reviewing some of your support tickets, I could see where a TAM would help a lot of you out. And so we could definitely talk about those this week. The last thing, and Srini mentioned it a little bit in his talk, is this idea of managed cloud services. So we know the cloud really well. We know Aerospike really well, and we know operations really well. So we're putting the three together. And if you don't want to run your Aerospike operations in the cloud, we will take over. We'll come in and provision, deploy, manage Aerospike within your cloud provider. So that's Google, GCP, or Azure today. And we do this through an SLA, or a series of SLAs, I should say. One is for uptime, where we really just meet your cloud provider's uptime SLA. We'll also do one based on performance, and then we'll do one based on scale. We've developed a series of operational runbooks that we provide, escalation procedures. We have dashboards if you look at your clusters and see how they work. So if you're interested in that, definitely can help. So just walking back through, I know this is kind of a quick tour of services and how we're working, but we did talk about a successful customer. Again, successful customer helps and engages us, tells us what you're doing, why you're using Aerospike, engages in many of our different functions. We do have a life cycle that we've deployed, and we have different activities we schedule throughout that life cycle. We can give you confidence in your architecture. We can look at that. We can manage your clusters for you in your cloud accounts. We can help you with the cloud strategy. We can help you with upgrades. Then we also have TAMs that embed within your teams and help you out. So that's the Nickel tour of services. Very excited to be here. Thank you for your time, and hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations.
Good job. Okay, so how'd it go? Good? Very, 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 very different than last year. A lot more available for all of you to take advantage of in the coming year. Really excited about Tom in particular. These are things that we've actually been doing for years. We're just now getting formal about it and getting serious about it. And so having them packaged up in an intelligent way allows us to be a lot more efficient and effective in helping you. So thank you, Tom, for that. Now with this, we do have a little bit more time before the break. I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't sure if we're going to be on time. But we have some time for Q&A. So if anybody has any questions they would like to ask any of the people that you just heard, this would be a time to do it. Just raise your hand. We got some people with some mics, and I'm going to ask John and Srini and Tom to come back up on stage. Don't be shy. Anybody have a question? If not, nobody. Jason, you got to have a question. Somebody. Okay, if we're not going to have a question now, I will tell you this, that we are available throughout. All of the executives you heard from and the development team are here throughout the session today and tomorrow. Do not be shy. We're here to hear from you. I think Srini put it well. We want to learn from you. What is it that you're looking for that we don't have today? Please, please, please seek us out, ask us questions, give us feedback. On that note, as you go out to the break, please visit the sponsors. They helped underwrite this. They're all very, very, very talented at what they do. They have a lot to offer you. Learn about what they have. Go visit the G2 crowd. That's the Yelp station. If you go and fill out a 2-minute survey, $10 goes to a good cause to help victims of the wildfires from last year. It'd be super helpful for this state, which suffered a lot during that. Get a $10 gift card. Also, session reviews. If you want to do those session reviews, now would be a good time to do it before you come back to hear from the next keynotes, which will be Teresa Melvin from HPE and Matt Cochran from the trade desk. So with that, I'll let you go to a break. We'll reconvene in about 25 minutes or so. Thank you.